Hello dear learners, welcome to video lesson number 2 in our series of IELTS Writing Discursive Essay video lessons. And today in particular we are going to address how do we generate ideas and convert those ideas into a structured essay plan. Yeah, so let's get into it without any further delay. Now, generating ideas for both sides of an argument is very important for any type of a discursive essay, because discursive essay itself means you have to discuss more than one view in the same essay, which means you will have to be more objective except for when you're concluding, when you're supposed to check or choose one view of the two. Yeah? So this is the question that we have been working with in this series. If you missed analyzing the question, it's a good idea to look at my last video so you follow along comfortably with what happens in this video. Okay, so if you want to check out, I will drop the link in the description, and you will also see the link on the top of your screen with an I mark beside it. So that's the question about community service should be made compulsory in part of high school programs. Others, however, feel such programs disregard students' freedom of choice. Discuss both views and give your opinion. So one view says unpaid community service should be made compulsory, and the opposite view says some people feel it's not a good idea because they infringe or they don't consider students' personal choice whether they want to get into it or they don't want to contribute or participate in any community service activities. Yeah, so that's the one we've been working with, and this is view number 1, and one highlighted in red is view number 2. We're supposed to discuss both and give our opinion at the end when we conclude. So the very first thing that you do as a candidate in the exam, if you get such kind of a question or a question which asks you to discuss both views and give your opinion, understand both views in detail and then think about at least some points in favor of both views, because you've got to explain both views from a neutral perspective. You cannot get away with only explaining the view which you agree with. Yeah, so let's think of view 1, which is marked within blue markers. So that's nothing but community service should be made compulsory in high schools. Let's look at some points in favor of view 1 in blue. So one point is community service helps develop life skills like teamwork, problem solving, decision making. That could be one point in favor of why they should be included. Volunteering experience could be key differentiating factor for university admissions. Those who want to study further or get into university, it could be one of the differentiating factors that would distinguish those candidates from the others who are applying for the same seat or the same course. Highly regarded as valuable for future work prospects. So in addition to being valuable for university admissions, this kind of experience also scores well with recruiters or employers who are looking for candidates or people who are studying in high school and want to start work or find employment right after that. Survey how University Admissions Council values such experience for higher education. So we could include one of the surveys in our essays, and that survey could be that how university admissions are treating volunteering or community service as one of the important aspects of skill development in the students. Yeah? We could also include another example which talks about how recruiters treat such experience as important when they employ applicants or when they accept employees. Yeah? So these are the points in favor of one side. One view. Which view? It's a good idea to include community service and make it compulsory in high schools. So that's the view. Now we also have to think almost the same number of ideas, almost the same, not exactly point to point, but there should be at least 3 to 4 in each camp, which will make your essay more balanced and nice. It's a discursive essay, so you have to discuss both views in considerable depth. Okay, so let's talk about the opposite view. If it's compulsory, it infringes students' fundamental rights. That's first point, the most important point. So if it could be elective, it could have been better if it was not compulsory and it was elective. So that's the important point. Students do it against their will just to meet the requirements of high school grades. So they don't do it willingly, they just do it because it's a formal requirement, which is again implying the fact that it is hampering their freedom of choice. Another point, if students put in time for all these activities, they will not get time to pursue hobbies, leisure activities like art, painting, adventurous sports or other sporting activities, and so on and so forth. That's another good point. We could also include a survey which talks about how majority of high school students are not really interested in community service. They just do it to fulfill the requirements. So this survey could be directly relevant to the view we are discussing, which is it infringes students' freedom of choice, fundamental rights, their right to choose what they opt to do and what they don't want to do, right? So these are sufficient points in Camp 1 and Camp 2. Yeah. So this method is called tabling method, where we have 2 columns. One column is talking about one view, the other column is talking about the opposite view or the diametrically other side of the coin. Yeah. If you're not comfortable with tabling, you could also use something as simple as listing. So you just kind of make a note in a linear fashion below one heading, which is one view, and below the other heading, which is view number 2. This is the exact same plan, verbatim, of what we saw previously in the tabling method. It's the exact same plan. The only difference is how we are representing it and how we are going about listing the ideas. So the top section is about view 1, the points in favor of view 1. The below section is points in favor of the opposite view, about community service infringing students' fundamental rights. So we saw tabling, we saw listing. You could also, if you're a visual learner, you learn diagrams or by looking at visuals more, this could be your preferred technique. Yeah. So here you will have a good idea of the branching or how one idea or example is directly related to one point or the central idea. So this could also be a nice technique. So the blue view is view number 1, making community service compulsory for high school students, and the red view is the opposite view, community service infringes students' freedom of choice. And then we have ideas branched out from that single idea, which are in turn branched further if some points are relevant to that or not. So first idea is helps develop life skills. What kind of skills? Teamwork, problem solving, decision making. The next main idea is improves future prospects. How does it improve future prospects? Because it's valued by University Admissions Council, and it is also valued equally by recruiters and employees who are finding employees for the positions to fill in. And some support examples or experiences in favor of view in blue is we could talk about a survey about Ivy League candidates who did community service, and the other example could be about a focus group connecting community service or experience to getting employment. And similar thing is done with the opposite view, which is community service infringes students' freedom of choice. So that's the mind map. So 3 techniques: tabling, separated into two columns, one view and the other column talks about the other view. Then it's listing, you're linearly following along, noting down the ideas in each camp, and finally only selecting something which is directly relevant, and last but not the least, the mind map, which is a visual method of ideating or brainstorming ideas. Now, what's the point if we don't convert all the ideas into a structured plan? So when we are converting the ideas into a plan, obviously we'll need to shortlist all the relevant ideas or group every idea which can be combined into one group and then list down in the most logical manner possible, because it is important to do that for getting a good band in coherence and cohesion. So that's the plan that we made at the end of the brainstorming or ideation stage. It's a job to convert the plan into it's a job to convert these ideas into a plan. So what's the core framework of the plan? Let's look at that first. First, whenever you introduce a discursive essay, you always start with how the topic in the question is highly debatable, or it arouses strong feelings on either side, and also state two contrasting views side by side. After that, you will lead into the body paragraph number 1, where you state one side of the argument, and the side which you are not in favor of, so side which you don't agree with, and you also support that with details connected to that view. Don't do it in first person, because everything you're talking here is not your opinion. It is some people who don't agree with the view which is given. So some people who hold that view, how would they justify it? So it should not be in first person. It should always use a non-personal academic language. This further leads into body paragraph number 2, where we talk about the other side of the argument, the side which we are more in favor of, or which we lean more towards, which we agree with, plus give supporting details connected to that view. This you could write in first person, or you could avoid writing in first person, as long as you properly give your conclusion where you state which one of the two views do you lean more towards, so which one you agree with more, and why. So why section will summarize the key points of the body paragraphs. You cannot simply say I choose this view and that's it. You'll have to summarize the key points that you have mentioned in the body paragraph and repackage it and condense it in the shortest manner possible, so that your essay has a nice structure to it. So you introduce body paragraph 1 talks about the argument which you don't agree with and support that. Body paragraph 2 talks about the argument which you agree with, or the view you agree with, and support that. Finally, you restate your view by also justifying the key points you mentioned in the body paragraph. Now let's try to convert the core framework into a detailed plan as far as specific ideas are concerned. So introduction, we'll say people hold contrasting views about compulsory community service in high schools. Some think volunteering has long-term benefits. Others say it infringes students' freedom of choice. I will analyze both views and state my opinion. Now you might have noticed I have used short forms and SMS language, because this is just a plan which we will refer to. It's not going to be assessed by the examiner. So this is only for us to convert it into a full-fledged essay, right? So you could use your shorthand techniques because writing everything in its complete manner would take more time. So this will lead into the body paragraph, which is going to talk about the other view which you don't agree with. In this case, this is view number 2. So view number 2 was the compulsory nature of community service infringes students' personal rights to choose. The supporting details will be students do community service against their will just to fulfill the grade requirements. They cannot pursue hobbies, leisure activities because they are compelled to participate in community service. And the last example could be survey, which talks about how majority of high school students are not interested in community service. They just do it to complete the formal grade requirements. That's all. So this makes a good plan for a complete body paragraph number 1. Remember, this is the view you don't agree with, so try to use non-personal language when you convert it into an actual body paragraph. This leads into body paragraph number 2, which the controlling idea there is community service provides life skills and improves education and work prospects. So this is the view which I tend to agree with more. So I will try to have this a bit longer than my earlier body paragraph, a tad longer. There shouldn't be an ocean of difference between the two body paragraphs, just a tad longer. You could just extend one more example or anecdote from real life to justify the view that you agree with more. Now, the supporting points: students gain problem solving, teamwork, decision making skills, and this kind of experience could be a differentiating factor for people who want to enter university or who want to start work. So they will improve the work prospects as well as university prospects. We could talk about a survey which is connecting social work with university and work benefits. We could talk about Ivy League students who considerably have been involved in community service, so that it would imply that successful students who enter good universities don't only have a good academic performance, they also have extracurricular skills that go along with the academic performance for them to enter good universities. Finally, conclusion, we have to state which one we agree with and quickly summarize the key points to justify our view. So we could say, after examining these views, I am strongly in favor of bringing community service in high school programs. Why? Because its long-term positive impact on students outweighs the case of infringing their moral rights. So every key point that I've mentioned in the conclusion tracks back successfully to the body paragraph ideas, because the case of positive impact outweighs the case of infringing moral rights. It can be justified by again reading the body paragraph, because my second body paragraph, which is about the view which I tend to agree with, is a tad longer and more expanded than the first body paragraph. That's why you have to talk about the view that you tend to agree with in the second body paragraph and not the first, so that it naturally flows into your conclusion where you are going to restate your side. So that's the plan that we have prepared, which we will be using all throughout our essay writing process. So your essay writing has to have a strong plan, otherwise you run a risk of building an essay which is going to be loose, which is going to have loose ends, which is not going to be coherent, or it's not going to be well sequenced. So to not fall into that trap, we have to prepare a good detailed plan like what you see on the screen. Okay, good. So finally we have this plan, and we'll be resorting to this plan every time we make introductions, body paragraphs and conclusions. So in this video we learned idea generation techniques for discursive essays, which are 3: tabling, listing and mind maps. And then we also saw how do we convert those ideas into a structured plan, which is going to be our road map, our navigation map for when we start writing. So thanks a lot for joining, and next you could learn about the key elements of a strong introduction paragraph. So we will make a strong introduction about the same essay question by resorting to the essay plan that we have. So that's my plan. Thanks a lot for joining me. These are some related videos to our channel. our Twitter handle and our Facebook page. Do connect with us. Yeah, thanks a lot. Take care. Happy learning. Goodbye.